We're, we're so glad that you're here today. I'm Steve Mansell with Innovate Ag, and today we're going to be talking about saving on chemical usage with SmartGuided systems. I'll be joined today with Andre Bailey, Steve Bucher, Greg Christensen, and Dr. Love Cott with WSU. Before we get into a little more on the webinar, just a quick focus or summary of who Innovate Ag is and what we're focused on. We're an ag data startup based out of Eastern Washington, and our focus is really on unlocking value through new data-driven insights. And what we've heard from growers is they have many different data sources to look to. Our role is to consolidate that data into one place so that you can take more actionable decisions that ultimately are focused on lowering your costs or having a better outcome. And our predominant focus is on permanent crops, apples, grapes, and nuts. And we're really happy and proud to work with land-grant university partnerships, starting with WSU. So with that background, quick overview on the panelists. It's great to have Greg Christensen here with John Deere, who will speak a little later. Steve Bucher, founder and CEO of SmartGuided Systems, will take you through some of the breakthroughs that they've been making on LiDAR-based spraying. And then we'll kick this off really with Andre Bailey out of Canada, one of the leading growers up there, that will share a little bit more around his experience as how the SmartGuided systems have worked for them. Andre, welcome, and thank you very much for making the time.
Super happy to be here, and hello to everyone. Steve was kind enough to introduce. I'm Andre with Global Fruit. We're a marketing company up in Canada. We have a vertically integrated farm, Rivers End Farms, that we use essentially as a test orchard for the growers that we work with to look for new, innovative, sustainable solutions to produce, hopefully the best tree fruit that we can. It's a small operation. We grow high density Trellis Rainier flush cherries, new varieties, some numbered varieties. About 20 acres, 16.62 acres of Honeycrisp on vertical and Trellis. And then we do some forage and cattle business, but that's more of a hobby. I met Steve in SmartGuided at a growing innovation show, and immediately it was interesting. I'd never seen anything like that. We were aware of LiDAR and some of the possibilities, but seeing that, complete integrated package, and it checked a lot of boxes for us. One of the big things we try to do on the farm is when we're looking at different technological solutions, it has to be, readily available, and it has to be, affordable and feasible for our growers that we work with. Canada's made up of a lot of smaller farms compared to Washington State, and it seemed to, from Steve's presentations, that there would be a both environmental and financial sustainability component to it. So we decided to buy the system in early 2020, and COVID hit, which was made things challenging. We were, SmartGuided weren't able to come up. They sent us the system up, and you can install this system via FaceTime and Zoom. We proved that. It was interesting. We retrofitted a 400-gallon turbo mist sprayer. We built a tower for it. We wanted to go with 34 nozzles so we could interchange between nutrient and pesticide nozzles. We're running blue and blacks. A little bit of input time getting the sprayer calibrated. It took us about a week. We did a lot of spray paper trials. We'd like to do some black light trials as well, but until the border opens up, that's not going to happen. And once we had the sprayer tuned in, it worked unbelievable. There's just not much I can say. We had almost no issues whatsoever. We had, some of the products we were testing in the orchards, suspended solids in solution. We plugged off some nozzles, super easy to fix. SmartGuided walked us through it. After we knew what the problem was, we changed the mesh sizes on the screens and we were fine. Savings wise, the savings were evident pretty quickly. I'm just going to make sure I don't have the numbers wrong. That on labor, we were able to increase with the pulse system. We were able to increase our spray speed from 2.9 to 4 mile an hour, which was a saving about 2 hours almost per spray. And then when you're factoring that the spray was going further, less mixes, and we're super happy with the coverage. And we figured that we had just on direct labor savings due to that about 26.8% labor saving over that first season and then on product, we're gonna work on dialing it in still on the vertical, on the apples themselves between the V and the vertical. We figure our spray saving was about 25.2% over the course of the season, which is pretty phenomenal. Those are trees going into their 6th and 7th leaf. But on our new planting of UFO cherries, which is in their 1st and 2nd leaf, that's where we're really seeing an unbelievable saving on the planting, almost 64% over what we would expect. I mean, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with the UFO planting where the trees are bent over. That initially when we were putting on our initial dormant sprays, we were spraying almost 20 acres of fruit on 264 gallons with excellent coverage. So payback wise, because we do a lot of different trialing, we spray maybe a little bit more than most, that we felt our payback in the first year was about 86% over cost. We were able to secure some environmental farm plan funding here in Canada because of the benefits that less overspray, the less pesticide usage, all the stuff that goes with this system. That our payback on our first unit we felt was 115% on direct costs within that first season. So we bought a second one in October and it's installed, ready to go. We've installed this one on another 300-gallon turbo mist sprayer, a conventional, not tower, and I look forward to seeing how it works on a conventional sprayer as opposed to the tower. Working with SmartGuided, it's been phenomenal. It's not just this sprayer, the team, and they're ready to answer a phone. You put a ticket in with a question, someone's going to call you right away. Like, the service has been absolutely wonderful, and it's all those back end features. It's not just this is a machine that applies chemical, the GPS tracking in the orchard, everything. But we have a spray driver out in the orchard. We know if he missed a row. We can see it live in real time, and the fact that a fairly complicated piece of machinery worked that flawlessly is really impressive, and especially one that has that immediate payback. One thing with growers, if we don't see an immediate payback, it's sometimes hard to sell a new piece of technology or a data solution too. And this is something that can make you more efficient, put more dollars in your pocket at the same time. It's making you a better and healthier grower. So that's about all that I have, Steve. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing your presentation.
Thank you. You're my new spokesman for the company now. So, well, I'm Steve Boer, founder of SmartGuided Systems with Smart Apply, and also the Permanent Crop Analyzer. If you can hit the next slide there.
Steve, I think you're muted.
Are you there?
Sorry about that. Won some recent awards. The ASABE AE50 is the top 50 ag awards around the world, and then that's voted upon the members for the Davidson Prize, which is the top 3 ag innovation awards of 2020. We were fortunate enough to win the 2020 World Ag Expo Top 10 for new product, and then again in 2021 for permanent crop analyzer. And then just today, actually 3 a.m. Indiana time, we won the down select for the SEMA Paris 2021 Innovation Award for Europe. It's probably the highest honor award in Europe. So we're very thankful for my team that helped make that happen.
Steve, were you awake to accept that?
You know, I set my alarm. I got up at 3:30 in the morning. Yep.
Congrats.
And it was all in French, so I had to read the subcaptions down below. Yeah. Here's the problem with current systems. You know, probably our number one competitor is they've always done it the same way for the last 25 or 30 years. And you see that picture on the right there. You can go in Florida or a grove anywhere, and you know who doesn't have our system because the chemicals are just going everywhere. And one thing that people always measure is the gallons per acre. And you think about that, that's perfect for row crop and, you know, soybeans and wheat and everything. But when you do permanent crops, it's a 3D object that has a lot of mass vertical. So we actually measure in ounces per cubic feet by using density. Go to the next slide. Here's a little video.
Kicking this video, Steve?
Yep, kicking the video. It's a good overview, and it saves me from talking the whole time. Yep.
This video will highlight the Smart Apply, intelligent spray control system brought to you by SmartGuided Systems. The SmartGuided Systems intelligent spray control system utilizes LiDAR, which is a light detection and ranging sensor, to create digital 3D representations including height, width, spacing, and density of each plant or tree. This data is used to determine exactly where to spray, while proprietary algorithms determine exactly how much to spray. Then, by controlling each nozzle of the sprayer independently and adjusting the spray volume based on plant density, the system delivers equivalent or better effectiveness, while dramatically reducing chemical waste, environmental impacts, and cost. The Intelligent Spray Control System began in 2009 with a grant through the USDA, Agriculture Research Services, Application Technology Research Group in Worcester, Ohio, along with leading universities. 47 published scientific peer-reviewed journals and proceedings from 2010 to 2018 conclude 47 to 73% reduction of spray consumption, 40 to 87% reduction in spray loss beyond canopies, up to 87% less airborne drift, 68 to 93% reduction in spray loss on the ground, all with equivalent or better crop protection. Validation studies ranging from 2 to 8 years have included nurseries, apple, peach, pear, pecan, and hazelnut orchards, along with vineyards, raspberry, and blueberry farms. SmartGuided Systems was chosen exclusively to commercialize the system by the USDA under a 5-year technology transfer agreement. The Intelligent Spray Control System adapts to existing sprayers and can be self-installed in 3 to 5 hours. This video shows conventional spraying on the left and spraying with the Intelligent Spray Control System on the right.
Steve, we can probably skip this part because it's a little bit delayed anyway. That video is available on smartapply.com. If you want to hit the next slide. So spraying methods, traditional spraying, you just spray everything. It goes everywhere. Next slide shows there is ultrasonic spraying. It's a 1980s technology. It's like the backup sensors on your car. You know, you can't do a lot with it. You compare this to a Tesla that can self-drive on the lanes and maintain lanes. That's what we're doing with the LiDAR. So instead of controlling 3 zones of a sprayer each side based on what it sees as a mass, you know, we spray every nozzle variable rate independently per nozzle. Next slide. Components, we use a GPS for speed. We use a SICK LiDAR out of Germany for, that's really the heart of the system. We went with a high-end LiDAR, but you've got to have a good IP67 rated, which is for outdoor LiDAR to collect all the data. We use automotive grade diesel air filtration system that we filter air that we blow over the LiDAR. That keeps drift and any dust off the system. Real important in dusty environments. That's almost it's an option, but we're really making that a part of the standard kit now. The controllers were designed and developed by our company, and they're proprietary controllers. And we are working on a Gen 2 controller now that will be able to accept CAN bus data. So as we plug into like a John Deere tractor, we'll be able to get some of the data off the tractor, like speed and GPS location if it has GPS. Algorithms were developed by the USDA using C++, but we took all that code and theory of the algorithms and we rewrote those for Java for Android. And the USDA helped guide us through that redevelopment process and really improve the efficiency of the code. Solenoids are T-jet solenoids. You can buy them at any ag center. We are developing our own proprietary solenoid. We'll have a solenoid starting to test as early as next week, we think, that will never clog. And the problem with the solenoids today on the market, they're for row crop chemicals, and the chemicals for permanent crop are much harsher. We've got more zinc, copper, and also a clay-based suntan material. And it's really hard to keep those clean unless you flush often. But like Android mentioned, if you keep them flush, it's not a problem, but a lot of growers don't do that. So that'll be a big improvement when we get a new solenoid. And there'll be one more slide. Everything is ran through Android tablet. It's a high-end tablet. We include that. Includes the sunshade if it's open ROPS that we designed. All the LiDAR data comes in to Ethernet cable. We process all that data, including speed and density, and we send commands back to our controllers via Bluetooth through the controller. Here's a quick testimonial from one of the early users of the USDA system back in probably 2010.
We saved a lot. We saved a lot of chemicals, we saved a lot of time. You can cover more ground and really precisely apply the chemicals where you want.
You got a sense of what percent of chemical savings you've had?
And it's probably 40 to 60 at least percent, depending on the time of the year. In the spring, it can be a lot more. Like tank can go a lot farther when you're doing a dormant spray and there's not a lot of canopy.
How does it save you time?
Refilling time, your tanks go a lot farther.
Effectiveness in pest control, is it?
It's just as good, if not better.
So Jesse's a good guy. He's been around. He actually has two systems: the USDA original system, and he has one of our upgraded systems. Here's a quick video on a permanent crop analyzer.
SmartApply now offers the Permanent Crop Analyzer, which allows you to collect, analyze, and report data about your permanent crops. The Permanent Crop Analyzer is a kit that easily attaches to a John Deere Gator or other utility vehicle. Once installed, the system with the included Android tablet and app is ready to collect data. By configuring the system to match your calibrated air blast sprayer settings, including nozzle size, spray rate, and spray pressure, allows for simulating spraying as if the SmartApply intelligent spray control system is retrofitted onto your air blast sprayer. Collect your data. Start by driving the boundary of the section or track you wish to analyze. This will create a boundary of the area to be analyzed, including total acres within the boundary. With this, and knowing the gallons per acre, as applied, reports how much was applied in this area along with total chemical cost inside the defined boundary. After this, each row is driven as would be normally sprayed. Being a utility kit, the drive speed can be up to 10 miles per hour. As the operator drives the rows, the LiDAR, scanning at 120,000 points per second, captures all the crop data. Analyze your data. With this data, now the grower can see the differences in density, allowing to identify problem areas, skips or gaps in foliage, and relate density back to annual yield. Using the Permanent Crop Analyzer allows the grower to compare foliage density, increases or decreases between scans, and allows for historic scan comparisons based on calendar dates. By simulating spraying with the SmartApply Intelligent Spray Control System allows the grower to zoom into an individual tree or area and see the estimated volume of chemicals applied per tree, and estimated total chemicals applied inside the defined boundary. Report of your data. If in trees, detailed statistics on total tree count within the boundary, number of trees by size, including each tree height, tree width, and tree density per tree. The Permanent Crop Analyzer will also estimate the percent of chemical savings within the boundary if it was sprayed with the SmartApply Intelligent Spray Control System, matching your calibrated spray rates. This is then used for an estimated return on investment for the SmartApply Intelligent Spray Control System based on your crops and annual chemical spend. The SmartApply Permanent Crop Analyzer can be outright purchased, leased on a 3-year contract, or is offered as a paid service by the dealer.
We just did that in almonds in Arizona and some hazelnuts in California, and it is absolutely amazing to take that out to a grower, and he'll say, well, I'm not sure what I'll save with your system. And when you give him an automated report showing the density, the heat maps, the tree count, the size of the trees, it's incredible. It really is. So my guys did a really good job on that. Partnership recently signed a worldwide agreement with John Deere, and we'll let Greg Christensen from John Deere talk a little bit about that. It's exclusive for John Deere US Canada, and nearly exclusive in Australia for the starting point of that agreement.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So again, I'm Greg Christensen. I work in marketing for our 5 family of tractors, so 5G, E, M, R, our Frontier implements, and then anything that goes into what we call the high value crop segment. So, and kind of why we wanted to pursue and get involved in this partnership, is really what Andre said at the beginning, and then some of the data that Steve showed on his slides of the payback numbers that you saw that this system provides. And it's really an opportunity for us to bring technology into the high value crop segment through our dealers for the customers that we and they serve. So I think that's the part we're really excited about. We've brought a lot of technology to what we call the large ag side of the business, the corn, the soybeans, the wheat, the canola. So now with this partnership with SmartApply, our dealers have the availability to offer more technology for the customers they serve. And you can see on here are some of the dealers that we have signed up already, and that Steve has signed up, and should be ready to go to start offering this technology and this system. So I think now that the process is getting some more dealers signed up across the US, Canada, eventually Australia. And Steve kind of mentioned it as well. I think for the future, where we see this going is potentially and hopefully even more integration with our tractors. So this system works even more seamlessly than it does today. So again, just really excited for this partnership and what it's going to provide to both our dealers and our customers.
Thanks, Greg. And I think what really to add on that is it really gives a stamp of approval. First, we're a small Indiana company. We've got 12 employees, a lot of very expensive engineers and software guys. But everybody was like, okay, so what do you know about oranges in Florida? What do you know about hazelnuts in California or apples in Washington? I think this really puts a stamp of approval on the technology, and that it's a real deal. And with all the back of the USDA research, it really, shows that it's an effective system that works. And, we took that project on from the USDA, and it was a prototype, hand wired, and you just couldn't imagine, where we've taken it in a short period of time. And we were fortunate enough to have a lot of Android technology for auto steer, and also spray boom systems for independent individual nozzle control. So that really helped as well. All right, next slide there. Everybody wants to know the price. No secret, 27,000. Actually, it will go up to 26 nozzles. Over that, it takes it under controller, it goes to 32,000. We'll send our techs out, and we work with the dealers to do installation. Eventually, that'll move to the dealer local that will install at their given price, and it's probably $1,000 less in a lot of cases if there's more than one unit. We talked about the optional LiDAR lens air filtration. Really have to have that, so we'll probably just filter that into the price above. There's an annual subscription. We do lower that as you get more units, but that gives you the application data, the coverage maps, the upgrades, where you've driven and sprayed, all the data that we're able to collect. Includes that any app upgrades that we always improve the app to be a better system. And it also qualifies for John Deere Finance, and probably the best example of that would be, you say, hey, I really need a new sprayer. Average life of a sprayer in the U.S. is 25 years old, and it's like putting a new turbo engine in a Volkswagen. It really is. And soon we hope the dealers will push that, hey, why not buy a new sprayer, get the system. And oh, by the way, we got 0% or whatever, deals on tractors, and you get the whole package. But in a 5-year payoff, you'll have it paid off in no time with the chemical savings alone. So that's one of the benefits of the John Deere partnership as well. Next slide.
That's great. Well, Steve, thank you very much. We'll open it up in a minute for Q&A. I wanted to wrap a couple of things here with Love Cod, and just basically provide a quick overview on the Smart Orchard pilot in Eastern Washington in an apple orchard that we've been doing with the Washington Tree Fruit Research Commission. And basically, we Innovate Ag brought together sensors from many different sources. As you can see, we basically see this 20-acre block over here on the right-hand side. I think we've got 5 or 6 different sensor providers. Each of those normally would go into their own app. What we do is pull that all down into one data warehouse and one app so that you can see that data all together. And what we're working through with SmartGuided as well is to pull their data in so that we can basically start looking at this data, or a grower can start looking at this data in layers on an app and use that to make decisioning. So our capabilities really is about bringing those into layers from weather data, soil moisture, soil nutrient data, irrigation application data, imagery from satellite, from drones, from ATVs. You can see across the bottom left-hand corner actually some technology that we spoke about in last week's webinar, where we work with Green Atlas and we can run an ATV up and down an orchard or a vineyard at 25 miles per hour, and basically provide you with a map of the density of your foliage, of your apples or grapes, all the way through the growth stages. So from blossom to applet, all the way through to full size. And you could use that to, along the lines of Green Atlas, of SmartGuided systems, to better make decisions that can influence labor costs and chemical costs and tie that all together. Love, anything that you would like to add around the work that you've been doing with SmartGuided systems in the IRAC that you have there at WSU?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. And Steve number 1 and 2, right? So I think it's good to get perspective on where SmartGuided is going. It's good to see the collaboration with John Deere. So our collaboration on intelligence sprayer started with Dr. Heping Zhu, 2018, around that time, when he wanted to push the system to Washington State, and we are trying to optimize the base spray rate that is needed to for sprayer to have proper deposition coverage in the canopies. And as you all know probably that in Washington we have different architectures of the modern orchard systems in apples and cherries and other fruit crops. And so that's where it started. And now we have SmartGuided folks last fall. Actually, we got upgrade from them. Thank you. We have now 2.0 system that is much rugged compared to what we had from Dr. Zhu. And we are hoping that this year we have some data collection that was done, and Dr. Anwar is on the call here. He's the our research scientist in our team doing this. So we have some data collected for vertical tall spindle apple canopies, and we plan to extend that to other architectures and also other like grape vine crops, grape vine cropping system that we have here, and kind of deciding the base spray rate that you need to apply, and trying to take a little bit guesstimation away from the growers. And they have one equation. They measure like canopy parameters, and then the sprayer will do what it's supposed to, things like that. And on the Smart Orchard project, of course, our intent was to we're collecting a lot of imagery data and ground data. We wanted, because ideally, if SmartGuided is already collecting LiDAR data and actuating the nozzles, why not use the same data to understand the canopy variability? I think that's where we wanted to go with on this project with SmartGuided. Yeah, and that's pretty much. And we have some outcomes and products that we have developed, and we have year 2 now, as Steve can probably had mentioned somewhere else before, that will try to collect more data in season 2 this season to validate some of those things. Yeah. So Steve, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Love. Yeah, and so as Love called out, we had the Smart Orchard north of Pasco, Washington this past year, and we're expanding that per the Tree Fruit Research Commission's request to a second location that we're just finalizing on. And again, the key is to bring together all these different data sources, make it one-stop place for a grower to make more effective or efficient decisions by having that data all in one place, and enable new research as well. And that's why we're so excited to partner with WSU as a research partner as well. So wanted to switch gears now to Q&A, and if you this is a good opportunity. If you haven't had a chance to already, it looks like we've you can submit questions in the Q&A panel. And while we're waiting for that, I think a good question to ask is, Steve Bucher, so the permanent crop analyzer, that's something new that you've introduced in the last, I think, 4, 5, 6 months, basically, for mostly focused on 2021 growing season. What do you see as, is that going to be available through John Deere dealers, or is that something that growers would buy individually? How do you see that playing into the mix?
So one thing that we're really promoting is that as the dealers sign on, they get a permanent crop analyzer. It's part of their John Deere Gator kit. And our hope is the dealer will want to go out to the grower and say, hey, let's just do analysis on one of your blocks so you can see what our system can do. And the good thing about it is, you can take it on a trailer. You don't have to retrofit a sprayer and do all the training. And probably the hardest part about it, I wouldn't say hard, but you got to make sure it's configured like their sprayer. So you got to know their spray rates. you got to know whether nozzle zones are spraying. But once that's set, you can get a really good automated report on tree count, density, gaps in foliage, if it's vineyard, any gaps in vines. It can be outright purchase as well for the grower. There's some growers in Florida that have full-time tree counters, so it's a good way to replace them. And with our John Deere agreement, we also have where we can go direct to the grower. We think there's real value of having support locally, but there's cases where the grower says, I don't like the John Deere dealer, and we don't want to prohibit them from getting our technology. And hopefully that'll lead into, okay, maybe the John Deere dealer is not that bad after all. So that's kind of part of the plan.
Great. I had a question from Santiago Lira as to what the experience is on larger trees like walnuts. Steve.
Walnuts, obviously, if they're full mature walnut trees, it's going to be less savings because they are very mature trees. We saw probably 15 to 20% in California walnuts. One thing we learned on tree count is we are 100% accurate on tree count when you get a fully defined tree trunk. It's when we get tree count in places like Florida where the oranges hang over the trunks, or they grow together, it gets difficult to really identify what one tree is versus two tree. But definitely savings. Now in Arizona walnuts, it was a higher because they weren't as mature walnut trees in Arizona. I think they were probably 38 to 40% savings in chemicals, and that's the advantage of the system. We learn by state, by country, every crop's different, and it could just be literally over the mountain versus the other side. Let the dealer take the permanent crop analyzer out and run analysis, because that's an easy way to get data from your own crop.
Steve. Another question from Garrett LaPierre, and that is, how can growers ensure that adequate coverage happens with the system, and where does wind and drift accounted for?
Hopefully no grower is going to spray when there's a lot of wind and drift. Now, we do have a millisecond delay or advance on our spray system on the tablet. So if the wind's blowing from a certain direction, you can actually start the system a little before or end it a little after. And that's a real advantage when you get a light wind. But the coverage, we'll come out and work with the grower, and we'll put water sensitive strips in the trees, and we'll have you spray without our system on, and we put those in the most dense area of the tree, and we say, okay, are you happy with the coverage? And generally it's yes, because that's what they're spraying at, that rate and pressure and droplet size and nozzles. And then we'll put our system on and turn it on, and we actually start low. So we'll start low at ounces per cubic feet and put those water sensitive strips in the same area of the tree, and you'll say, hey, there's not enough coverage. So we'll up that just a little bit. So it's like 0.1 ounce per cubic foot to 0.15, and you can immediately see it on those strips. And that's when you understand the accuracy of our system. It's just incredible. And we dial that up until you say, okay, that's where I like coverage on the most dense part of the tree. That's where we set it for that configuration. And then if you got different sections that you want to spray or different spacing, we'll go ahead and do that with you on other areas. But then as you pull in the boundary of the crop, that automatically set that configuration for that crop spacing and that crop density.
Great. Andre, a question for you is, when it comes to your sprayer team and spray adoption or adoption of new technologies by that team, what suggestions would you have for other growers as to how to make that a smooth transition?
Yeah, it's the learning curve we found wasn't really difficult with our spray rig drivers. And when we found, usually from what Steve tells me, they will send someone out to help set up a machine, or, a John Deere rep will be trained and be able to help them. We did it all on our own with just, the Zoom call and FaceTime. Yeah, but we found our drivers found it were really intuitive. You know, once we had the configuration done, you know, it's just that time and comfort. A lot of time we did a bunch of water spraying earlier with our team with, you know, out there with the spray paper. We made sure our guys were involved. We're a small farm, so there's really only 2 guys that are in the spray rigs all the time. And, you know, I did drive it a lot myself. I like to spray once every couple of weeks, just in different blocks, just a good chance to look at every tree. And it's a very, very user-friendly system we found.
Thanks. You know, it really helps. Andre's not the norm, I will say. They're really advanced, and that's been a plus. You know, we've got systems in Chile and India and New Zealand, and you know, probably the biggest challenge is when we get a language barrier. But you know, obviously, if we can't be there, we'll support them all we can using Zoom and FaceTime. So.
That's great. Couple last questions from Santiago. What are the minimum sprayer requirements to mount the system?
You know, if you've got 3 nozzles, we can mount it. You know, if you got a very, very dense crop and then there's not much foliage change, you're not going to save as much except for early sprays. But you know, we do give a 1-year satisfaction guarantee because we don't want a grower to buy the system and say, well, it wasn't what I expected. And you know, we do that for a reason because we believe in it, and we believe in that. You know, the grower's got to be happy and get a return because that's how we get more systems out in the field.
Great. Another question from Garrett. How does the system interact with trellis posts and wires, and are posts confused for trunks? That's a great question.
You know, we just had this brought up on a call with the John Deere Technical Engineering Group yesterday, and we can actually, in vineyards, count the number of vines go down, and we can filter out the post if the posts are fairly consistent. So, you know, right now the growers are in vineyard especially are saying, hey, we want to spray the post because that's where the bugs actually start a lot of the insect pressure. And I don't know apples as well as you guys probably do, but you know, we do have a method to filter out data that's a consistent LiDAR point cloud data.
Right. Any experience or kind of applicability down in Chile?
You know, we got a distributor in Chile, and they're a great group of people. They understand it. They've been spraying blueberries and I think hazelnut down there. Obviously, if we could be down there and working with them for a couple of weeks, it would be a better relationship. But you know, the good thing is we've had time with COVID to really dial us in and get it right. So even though I like to be further along in South America, I'm happy that, you know, COVID kind of slowed us down on that growth down there.
And then last question would be related to from Bailey. How does this help with, do you see it having more effect on mildew versus a traditional air blast sprayer? And that's a bit of a question for Andre as well. And then a follow-on for Steve is just any sort of perspective on grapes and vineyards as well.
We did see actually a reduction in mildew in our V-Trellis Honeycrisps. In part, I mean, you were making sure with our tower that we're getting up into the tops, you're able to adjust the pulse and the density to make sure we're getting that product where we want it. And one of the other things we're able to do with it too, we found, is that by adjusting your ounces per cubic foot, that in our dormant sprays, you know, we can be far more aggressive with our mildew controls, and we'll go without a fan by increasing the ounces per cubic foot. We can be far more aggressive with our dormant spray, and then that way, without, you know, getting lime sulfur, whatever product we're using, we're putting the product where we want it without getting a whole bunch ending up on the ground with almost, you know, no wind drift, no ground loss. We're not oxidizing our soils, so we're able to put more product where we want it, which really seems to help control most diseases.
On Vineyard, the follow-up question, one thing that John Deere and Greg is working with me on is John Deere wants to have individual data sheets per crop type. So Vineyard is actually one of the first ones. We'll have peaches, we'll have hazelnut, but it will have proven scientific research data per crop type. And it's terms that I don't understand because I'm not an agronomist. But I think when the grower sees these cell sheets, is what I call them, it'll hit home with them because they're like, that's exactly what I want to know. And that'll be coming out shortly. We are doing 2 systems in California next week with a big grower that has Vineyard, and 2 of their brands is Suter Home and Joel Gott. And they have 40 brands, but John Deere dealers think that probably Vineyard will be the best market in California initially, not because of savings, because of the data we're able to collect there.
I love it. Yeah, that's fascinating, and it's a good way to wrap up. It's about the beautiful thing about the SmartGuided platform is one, you're able to, as Andre pointed out, save on labor and chem applications. 2 is you can collect the data at the same time and bring that all together. And that's why we're so excited about that, and so happy to have you here today. So as we wrap, anything that you would like to add in closing from any of the panelists? Really appreciate you being here today.
I just want to thank Andre and Greg for coming along, and appreciate, nothing promotes our system better than our growers saying what you've said today, Andre. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and it's great to be with you guys, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, good. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. It was great to learn from the panelists. Just to get a quick recap that we have a number of different webinars. We typically run these weekly. If you look at the Innovate Ag website on the webinars page, number of different webinars that we've done over the last several weeks, including Green Atlas, which is a great complement in terms of actually mapping density and so on of apples and grapes in your acreage, as well as moisture management and weather and environmental data, pulling that all in together from a number of different sources there as well. We are kicking off next month Ag Tech Meetups in the Pacific Northwest virtually on the last Thursday of every month, bringing together growers, some ag tech startups and innovators. Stay tuned for that in our newsletter. We'd love to have you join. That'll be a little more informal and discussion and so on, and lots of different blog posts you can check out on our website. If you haven't checked out our newsletter already, do so. So a huge thank you again to the panelists, to Andre for joining us up in BC, to Steve Bucher for joining us from SmartGuided Systems in Indiana. Greg Christensen joining us from John Deere, and Lav Kott with WSU. Appreciate your time, everybody. Have a fantastic evening. If there's anything we can do to answer your questions as a follow-up, do reach out to us, and we would love to talk to you. Have a good evening.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, everyone.